Bill Wilson wrote his letter in the Grapevine titled Emotional Sobriety in 1958. The journey to emotional sobriety is a crucial aspect of mental health that often goes unnoticed. Bill's journey offers profound insights. His experiences provide a roadmap for anyone struggling with emotional balance. Co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill faced a brutal truth. Even after beating alcoholism, emotional sobriety was still elusive. He discovered that overcoming addiction was just the first step. He realized that old habits, like seeking approval and perfect circumstances, were holding him back. These habits were deeply ingrained and difficult to break. Wilson's epiphany? Dependence on others for validation was the root cause of his emotional turmoil. This realization was a turning point in his recovery. By cutting these dependencies, he found freedom to love unconditionally, just like Saint Francis of Assisi. This newfound freedom allowed him to form deeper, more meaningful connections. Bill's journey teaches us this, that real emotional sobriety comes when we let go of unhealthy dependencies and embrace genuine love and humility. It's about finding inner peace and balance. It is not about perfection. It is about progress. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember Bill's words. Take a moment to reflect and find your center. Break those dependencies, love freely, and find your peace. Embrace the journey with an open heart. Emotional sobriety isn't just a destination. It's a journey worth taking. Each day is an opportunity to grow and transform. What is striking is that Bill wrote the Big Book with the help of Dr. Bob and the other 100 originals based on the Oxford Group's 4 Absolutes, which Bill summarized in 6 steps. He expanded them to 12 steps to highlight the importance of dropping our character defects by praying to our higher power to remove them, understanding we cannot remove them on our own, just as we had to rely on our higher power to remove our obsession for alcohol. What he wrote in the letter is already expressed masterfully in the Big Book and the 12 steps. It is apparent that he was a vessel, a messenger from a higher power to transmit the message, and yet Bill did not fully grasp it fully until 1958, 23 years after AA started. Bill suffered from depression as well as alcoholism, and rightfully hoped the spiritual program of action could help with his depression. Now, let's read Bill's letter in its entirety. I think many oldsters who have put our AA booze cure to severe but successful tests still find they often lack emotional sobriety. Perhaps they will be the spearhead for the next major development in AA, the development of a much more real maturity and balance, which is to say, humility, in our relations with others, with our fellows, and with God. Those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance, urges quite appropriate at age 17, prove to be an impossible way of life when we are at age 47 and 57. Since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible, and how very painful to discover, finally, that all along we have had the cart before the horse. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still finding ourselves unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. How to translate a right mental conviction into a right emotional result, and so into easy, happy, and good living. Well, that's not only the neurotic's problem. It's the problem of life itself for all of us who have got to the point of real willingness to hew to right principles in all our affairs. Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us. That's the place so many of us AA oldsters have come to. And it's a hell of a spot, literally. How shall our unconscious, from which so many of our fears, compulsions, and phony aspirations still stream, be brought into line with what we actually believe, know, and want? How to convince our dumb, raging, and hidden Mr. Hyde become our main task? I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. I believe so because I began to see many benighted ones, folks like you and me, commencing to get results. Last autumn, depression, having no rational cause at all, almost took me to the cleaners. I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. Considering the grief I've had with depressions, it wasn't a bright prospect. I kept asking myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It's better to comfort than to be comforted. Here was the formula, all right, but why didn't it work? Suddenly, I realized what the matter was. My basic flaw had always been dependence, almost absolute dependence on people or circumstances, to supply me with prestige, security, and the like. Failing to get these things according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I had fought for them. And when defeat came, so did my depression. There wasn't a chance of making the outgoing love of St. Francis a workable and joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolute dependencies were cut away. Because I had over the years undergone a little spiritual development, the absolute quality of these frightful dependencies had never before been so starkly revealed. Reinforced by what grace I could secure in prayer, I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people, upon AA, indeed, upon any act of circumstance whatsoever. Then only could I be free to love as Francis did. Emotional and instinctual satisfactions, I saw, were really the extra dividends of having love. Offering love and expressing love appropriate to each relation of life. Plainly, I could not avail myself to God's love until I was able to offer it back to Him by loving others as He would have me. And I couldn't possibly do that so long as I was victimized by false dependencies. For my dependence meant demand, a demand for the possession and control of the people and the conditions surrounding me. While these words, absolute dependence, may look like a gimmick, they were the ones that helped to trigger my release into my present degree of stability and quietness of mind. Qualities which I am now trying to consolidate by offering love to others regardless of the return to me. This seems to be the primary healing circuit, an outgoing love of God's creation and His people, by means of which we avail ourselves of His love for us. It is most clear that the real current can't flow until our paralyzing dependencies are broken, and broken at depth. Only then can we possibly have a glimmer of what adult love really is. If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we will find at the root of it some unhealthy dependence and its consequent demand. Let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hobbling demands. Then we can be set free to live and love. We may then be able to gain emotional sobriety. Of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea, only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes at depth. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I have been given a quiet place in bright sunshine. Bill Wilson. Please subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching.